Hello everyone, that's today's second video. So we've already had a detailed look at Hurricane Irma and the other hurricanes that are in the tropics at the moment. Katia near Mexico and Jose in the middle of the tropical Atlantic Ocean. And of course, the main focus is on Hurricane Irma, which is still battering the Caribbean. And we'll be heading up to Florida as a Category 4 or possibly 5 hurricane over weekend. Very severe, life-threatening weather coming up through the Caribbean and into Florida in the coming days. So check out the first update if you'd like to know more. This is JMA Friday. As always on a Friday, we do have a look at the weather for the month ahead with the Japanese and CFS V2 models. Very late with this, of course. We normally only do one video on a Friday, but because of the situation down in the tropics, this is the second update, and we are a little bit late in the day with it. But here we go. We're going to have a look at the Japanese models first of all, and then have a look at CFS V2 and see if we can come to a consensus for the next month. This takes into October, can you believe? Just to say there is a lot of uncertainty at the moment within both the shorter and longer range model output due to all of these tropical storms and features that we've got in the Atlantic Ocean. They have a knock-on effect for our weather downstream. So whilst they might not impact us directly, they do help to change the overall synoptic pattern across the Northern Hemisphere. And we're included in that. Always a lot of uncertainty at this time of year. So, well, as ever with long-range output, do take with a pinch of salt anyway, but doubly so at this time of the year. But we'll endeavour to see what these two models are showing for the next month. So we're going to start off with the Japanese JMA models. So we're having a look at 500 millibar heights. They're broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from today, the 8th, through to the 15th of the month. And we've got above average heights up here over the pole. This is the pole view down, by the way. So we've got an area of above average heights up there. And then, of course, we've got the mid-latitudes going around here. Blue is extrapolating to low pressure, and yellow, orange, and red to high pressure. So we've got some above average heights over top of pole at the moment. We've got a bridge down to the southwest, but the main thing for us is that we're placed under a very deep trough of low pressure over and to the east of the country, and the jet stream looks like it's doing something a bit like that. So on the cool side of the jet, with closer to trough of low pressure, we can expect a very unsettled week, unseasonably unsettled really, and probably very cool as well. Then we go through to week 2. This takes us from the 15th through 22nd of September. Above average heights are now to our west, with below average heights going into Central Europe. The flow is going something a bit like that. So it is drier. We are blocking off the Atlantic quite a bit. We've got a drier setup coming along there, not as unsettled, but it won't be particularly warm because the flow around this ridge is coming from, at the very least, a northwesterly direction, might even be a little bit northerly, so it would be quite cool, but it would be drier there through that third week of September. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4. This takes us from the 22nd of September to the 6th of October. And it looks like we're moving the above average heights over towards Greenland a little bit. Got below average heights down here. Otherwise, not much else to go on. But I would have thought we're probably bringing in sort of east, northeasterly winds with that. So it could be quite cool again to end September and start October. And what we'll have to watch out for as well, with this trough just here, have to watch out for an undercut underneath the ridge. If we got that, we could start to bring some very wet weather in towards southern parts of the country. As at the same time, we have this northern blocking feature, or this blocking feature out to the northwest of the country. Rather an odd-looking chart, that, but I would have thought quite cool at the very least to be ending September, going into start of October. So let's see how the temperature and precipitation anomalies are stacking up over the next month. So again, we're breaking things down into week periods. This is the tropical mid-latitude view. That's the equator, of course, just there. And then we've got the northern hemisphere on the northern side of the equator there. Southern hemisphere is down here. The British Isles in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. Reminder of the week 1 500 millibar height anomaly with that deep trough over and to the east of the country. It's sending the jet stream to our south, and that looks pretty cool pretty unsettled too. So rainfall anomalies, you'll not be surprised that they are coming out above average, a wetter than average week in the week ahead. And temperature anomalies, you won't be surprised by this either, they're coming out cooler than average. So a pretty dismal week, you have to say, coming up with a lot of rain and also pretty cool temperatures as well. Now into week 2, we get quite a significant change here from the 15th, 22nd of September with above average heights centering out to our west. But at the very least, we're blocking off the Atlantic, so things should be turning drier, if not especially warm. So let's deal with the temperatures first of all. They are recovering a bit. They're not as cool as week 1, so maybe average to possibly even hinting at being slightly above average. I'm a little bit dubious about that. Could be very pleasant by day, but by night, with the position of that ridge, I would have thought we're likely to be pretty cool really at night. So I'm not sure about that temperature anomaly. This looks more like what you expect though for precipitation. That's going drier than average. So on the face of it, Mars going for quite a nice week there for the 3rd week of September. A little bit warmer than average. Also going drier than average. We've got a ridge out to our west. That should be a pleasant week's weather, even if the temperature anomaly might be a little bit cooler than is suggested. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4. We've got above average heights out to our northwest. Otherwise, not much else to go with, but we thought probably bringing the wind in from an east northeasterly direction. It's still a bit on the drier side for weeks 3 and 4, so that looks quite pleasant, going drier than average there. Temperature anomalies are holding up as well, so after we get this very unsettled and cool week out of the way, the rest of September, actually with the JMA, isn't looking too bad, with a fair amount of dry and reasonably mild weather coming up as well. Let's see what CFS V2 is predicting for the next month. So again, we've got 500 millibar heights. They're broken down into week periods. The first week period going from the 8th through to the 14th of September. Almost identical to what the JMA is doing. We've got this deep trough over and slightly to our east. We've got the ridge out to the west, and we are on the cool side of the jet stream. So again, that looks a very cool and very unsettled week there in the week ahead with the CFS V2. Then changes as we go through to, let's go through to week 2, which takes us from the 15th through 21st of September, and we get this ridge building out to the west of the country. So that's in agreement with the JMA as well. We're blocking off the Atlantic to some degree. We're sending that trough more towards the east-northeast of Europe, and we're doing something a bit like that with the flow and with the jet stream. So that should be a drier and at least slightly warmer week there for week 2. We're probably still bringing the air down from a north, at the very least a northwesterly direction, possibly even a little bit northerly. So I wouldn't be expecting particularly warm weather with that. And at night, it could be really quite cool, maybe even ground frost cool. So that would have a knock-on effect for the overall temperature anomaly, which that's why I was a bit dubious about the JMA showing above average temperatures for this week 2 period. But at least it's drier, and there would be a reasonable amount of fine weather to enjoy. Then we go through to week 3, which is the 22nd, 28th of September. Above average heights are to the northwest of the country. So again, similar sort of trends to what the JMA is showing. I would have thought we'd likely be bringing in east-northeasterly winds with that. So not going to be a heat wave, but it should be reasonably dry, reasonably pleasant. Watch out for these below average heights to the south. They might bring some rain into southern parts of the country, possibly. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 29th of September to the 5th of October. And we're sending the above average heights to Greenland then, and that places a trough right over top of the UK and Western Europe. So the flow would be going something rather like that, would be on the cool side of a jet, and underneath that trough, that would be a very unsettled end to September, and beginning to October would be pretty cool and pretty wet with that. Let's have a look at temperature anomalies for week 1. The coming week is coming out cooler than average. Excuse me. So both the JMA and CFS V2 models are in agreement for a pretty cool week coming up. Then we go through to week 2, and we're seeing a bit of a recovering in the temperature anomaly. Now, this is more like what I'd expect, really, rather than being just uniformly warmer than average, as the JMA is showing. It's just close to average. The south maybe hints at being a little bit still on the cooler side. The north maybe a little bit on the milder side. But not a big deviation either way. And that is more like what I'd expect, really, with the pattern that the models are showing for that middle part of September. Week 3 temperature anomalies, again, very close to average. Again, a little bit cooler than average for the south, perhaps a little bit warmer than average for the north. And then week 4, I think we're going generally more towards the cooler than average side. Again, most parts coming out cooler than average for the 29th of September to the 5th of October. Finally, precipitation. So the week ahead is not only cooler than average, CFS V2 also signals it to be quite substantially wetter than average as well. So a cool, wet week coming up. Then we go substantially drier than average in week 2. So that looks very pleasant, with both of these models in agreement for the broad pattern, which is much drier there for week 3. High pressure is back, albeit not in a position to produce anything particularly warm, and in fact at night it could be a little bit on the cooler side, but it is fairly pleasant. Then week 3, well, it's still hinting at being a little bit drier than average for week 3 as well. Week 4, as the signal weakens, we are edging back towards average. I would have thought that's likely, given the pattern, to be wetter than average there at the very end of September and into the start of October. So we've got pretty good agreement, actually, between the two models, which is quite bizarre, given what's going on in the tropics, because everything that's happening in the tropics is going to have an effect downstream, as I explained at the start of the video. But if we take the two models at face value, we've got a very cool, wet, unsettled, and pretty dismal week coming up the week ahead, and then improvements into the second half of September. It should turn drier, a little bit warmer as well. That will especially be notable by day. By night, possibly quite cold, and that could sort of offset temperatures a little bit. So maybe close to average with the temperatures, but drier into the second half of September. Maybe a deterioration right at the very end of September and into October being hinted at with these models, especially CFS. Looks like it could be turning really quite cool and wet again by the time we start October. That's a very long way off, though, of course. Remember, the caveat, as always, is that because of what's happening in the tropics, it's a very uncertain time of the year, so this isn't to be relied upon at all. It's to be taken with a large pinch of salt, actually any long-range forecast anyway, but particularly so at this time of the year. Right, weekend forecast tomorrow, and I think we'll have a lot of pretty wet and unsettled weather to forecast for that. And of course, tomorrow we will bring you an update on Hurricane Irma as well. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.